You? You clean the vents. Stick to that, Daniel Whitmore said without even looking up, his pen hovering over a $50 million contract as a few executives chuckled under their breath, the sound sharp against the glass walls of the boardroom. Marcus Reed stood near the side wall, fingers still dusted with drywall residue, a maintenance badge hanging against his chest, invisible until that moment. The kind of invisible people step around without seeing. Someone muttered. Did the janitor just walk into a live deal? And a ripple of quiet laughter followed, low, dismissive, practiced. Marcus didn't move right away, just watched the line on the page, the clause buried halfway down, the one no one else seemed to notice, his jaw tightening slightly as the pen dipped closer to paper, closer to a mistake. No one in that room was ready for. Marcus Reed had been in that building for 3 years, always after hours, always when the lights dimmed and the voices of people like Daniel Whitmore faded into silence, pushing a cart that rattled softly across polished marble floors that cost more per square foot than his entire apartment. A 600-square-foot walk-up on the edge of the city where the heat clicked on too late in winter and the pipes groaned like they were tired of holding everything together. He learned the building the way some people learned books, every vent, every wiring panel, every flicker in the fluorescent lights. But more than that, he learned the rhythm of the people who worked there, the deals they whispered about, the pressure in their voices, the way confidence sounded when it was real and when it was just noise. No one ever noticed him standing a few feet away, replacing filters or tightening screws, his presence filed away as background, a moving shadow with a name tag no one read. And when they did speak to him, it was short, clipped, transactional, never unkind enough to be called cruel, but never human enough to be remembered either. Just instructions, just assumptions, just a quiet reminder of exactly where he stood in a room like this. The laughter did not stop this time. It grew louder, sharper, echoing off the glass walls like it had permission to exist. One executive leaning back in his leather chair with a grin that did not bother to hide itself as he said, "This is exactly why we keep certain doors closed during live negotiations." And another added, "What is next? Are we taking legal advice from the maintenance crew now?" Their voices overlapping, feeding each other, turning Marcus into a moment of entertainment instead of a person. Daniel Whitmore finally looked up, not with anger, but with a slow, dismissive patience, like someone indulging a distraction, his eyes scanning Marcus from the dust on his sleeves to the badge on his chest before he spoke again. Calm but cutting. "You are out of line, son. This room handles decisions that affect millions of dollars, not air filters." A few heads nodded. Someone tapped the table lightly, as if to move things along. And near the far end of the room, a woman whispered just loud enough. "He probably does not even understand what he is looking at," the words landing heavier. Then the laughter as Marcus stood there, still, surrounded not by silence but by the weight of being completely dismissed. Daniel Whitmore did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The authority in the room bent naturally toward him as he placed the pen back against the paper with deliberate calm. "We are done here," he said, not to Marcus, but about him, as if dismissing a minor interruption, and then without looking up, "Have someone escort him out." The words landing clean, procedural, final. A security guard near the door shifted his weight, already moving, while the executives returned to their tablets and notes, the rhythm of the meeting attempting to reset. But something had already slipped, something subtle and uneasy. Marcus felt the pressure in his chest tighten, not fear, but urgency, the kind that comes when you recognize a mistake seconds before it becomes permanent. His eyes fixed on the same line, the clause buried in dense language, disguised in polished wording. That sounded safe until it was not. "Sir," he said again, steadier this time. One step forward, crossing an invisible boundary that drew a few sharp looks. Page 14, subsection C. It shifts full liability. After execution, a pause, then a scoff from the far end. He memorized a sentence and thinks he understands contracts. Another voice layered in. "This is wasting time." The guard was closer now, the air tightening as Marcus stood his ground, every second stretching thin as the pen hovered once more, closer, closer, the room waiting to move on. And Marcus, knowing they were seconds away from signing something they could not undo. The guard was close enough now that Marcus could hear the faint creak of his shoes against the polished floor, But Marcus did not move, his eyes still locked on the document as Daniel's pen hovered a fraction of an inch above the signature line. The room tightening around that single point in time. Marcus took a slow breath and said, not louder but sharper, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And something in the way he said it did not sound like defiance. It sounded like certainty, like someone who had already seen the outcome. A few executives exchanged glances, irritation flickering into something less certain, and Daniel's hand paused, just for a second, his eyes lifting, meeting Marcus fully for the first time, not as background, not as interruption, but as a question he could not immediately dismiss. And in that brief, suspended moment, the rhythm of the room faltered. Daniel did not speak right away, his fingers tightening slightly around the pen as his eyes dropped back to the page, slower this time, more deliberate, the confidence in his posture shifting into something quieter, something more careful, and for the first time since the meeting began, the room followed his silence instead of leading it. Marcus did not step forward again, he did not raise his voice, he simply pointed, not broadly, not dramatically, just a small, precise motion toward a single block of text halfway down the page. "It looks standard," he said evenly, "until you read the last sentence against the indemnity clause above it." A few executives leaned in, despite themselves, one pulling the document closer, another tapping on a tablet to find the section, the earlier amusement thinning into focus. Daniel's jaw moved slightly as he read, his eyes slowing, then stopping, then moving back up a line, then down again, tracing the wording that had seemed harmless minutes ago, a clause that quietly shifted risk, not immediately, not obviously, but completely once the deal closed. That language, Marcus continued, calm, controlled. It does not protect your company. It transfers exposure after execution, not before. A faint crease formed between Daniel's brows, the kind that did not come from confusion but from recognition, and around the table. Small reactions began to ripple, a chair shifting, a breath held a second too long, someone muttering, "Wait, that cannot be right." But no one laughed now, because the mistake was no longer theoretical, it was sitting right there on the page. In ink that had almost been signed, Daniel Whitmore's pen never touched the paper. It hovered for one long second before he slowly set it down, not with hesitation anymore, but with decision. And the shift was immediate, visible, the kind that changed the air in the room without a single word spoken. He flipped the page back, then forward again, scanning faster now, sharper, and then he looked up, not at his executives, not at the guard, but directly at Marcus, his expression no longer dismissive but measured, recalculating. "Where did you learn to read contracts like this?" he asked, quieter than before, and Marcus reached up, not to speak first, but to pull the worn badge from his chest, the plastic slightly scratched, the word maintenance, printed in bold, but tucked behind it, barely visible unless you looked closer, was another card, older, creased, a name printed above a title that did not belong to a janitor, risk analyst, Federal Compliance Division. A few people leaned forward, trying to read it, trying to reconcile what they were seeing, and Marcus met Daniel's gaze evenly. "I used to review deals like this before I had to take this job," he said simply, and this time, no one laughed, because the truth had already done what it needed to do. No one rushed to speak after that, not even the ones who had laughed the loudest, their confidence folding inward as the weight of what almost happened settled across the table. One executive quietly closing his tablet, another avoiding eye contact altogether. Daniel straightened in his chair, exhaled slowly, then turned to the legal team. "We are not signing this," he said firmly, the decision landing like a final verdict. And just like that, a multi-million-dollar mistake was stopped inches before it became permanent. The guard near the door stepped back, no longer needed, and Marcus lowered his badge without a word, the room parting slightly as he turned to leave, not with pride, not with anger, just quiet certainty, because in the end, the only thing louder than their laughter had been the truth they almost ignored.